host of Legal Talk with Robin Bond. Right now in offices across the country, artificial intelligence is making decisions that could land you or your company in hot water. An AI resume screener that accidentally discriminates, a chatbot that leaks confidential information, an algorithm that makes $1 million mistake in seconds. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. They're real cases that are currently making their way through our legal system. The promise of AI in the workplace is extraordinary. Increased efficiency, reduced costs, better decision-making. But with every AI tool that your company deploys, you are also inheriting a new category of legal liability that most of us cannot yet fully understand. Who's responsible when AI gets it wrong? What happens when your smart software violates privacy laws, employment regulations, or intellectual property rights? And how do you protect yourself and your business when technology is evolving faster than the law itself? For the next 30 minutes, we're going to cut through the hype and examine the real legal issues that lurk within your AI systems. We will be talking with a privacy law expert who can help you get up to speed so you don't have to learn the lessons the hard way. I am pleased today to welcome to my show attorney Joshua Waterson of Wilftek. Josh practices intellectual property and technology law, and he focuses on the intersection of technology, privacy, and security, exactly what we want to talk about today. So Josh enables clients to take advantage of opportunities that are created by this new technology without falling into the hidden traps. So welcome, Josh. We're so happy to have you here today.
It is my pleasure, Robin. Glad to talk to you.
Well, let's get started with a viewer question about AI. So if we could put that on the screen and we could see the question from Mark Wilson in Philadelphia. In asking legal questions with AI constraints, do you find that AI tends to go off the rails? What would you say about that, Josh?
That is the question these days. It can. Here's the problem. AI is terrific. It can have a lot of promise. It can answer a lot of questions. However, it can also get it wrong. And AI tools these days try so hard to please, especially chatbots. They want to be your friend. They want to give you the answer you're seeking. And they won't tell you if they don't know. They won't tell you if they're getting it wrong. And even when you tell them that, they may not admit that they got it wrong. So if you're a lawyer, double check.
Yeah, you know, I published something on my website about Mata versus Avianca, where the plaintiff lawyer used the ChatGPT, and the ChatGPT just created, hallucinated cases that didn't exist, and the lawyer never checked them, and of course, that got his client into hot water, and it wasn't a very good outcome in that situation. So we're going to talk about that because another legal case pending that you and I talked about, Josh, and I also blogged about this before, is where a 14-year-old boy fell in love with his chatbot and committed suicide just so he could be with her. At first, I thought, oh, yeah, that would never happen. And then I started using it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, Claude remembers me. I come back and we are chatting like so friendly. So you know, I really can see that this is happening, exactly what you said about they want to please us.
Exactly. And as far as that case, I started looking into it so I could discuss it. And it's a very, very sad story. And I don't want to depress everyone watching this, but one takeaway is that if you have kids, if you have teenagers, preteens, it's really important that you know what they're doing, and if they're using AI tools, that you're aware of what's going on, because it's a whole different world.
It's a very slippery slope. It happens so fast that even a hardcore cynic like me, I'm talking to Claude. Next thing I know, oh, welcome back, Robin. What are you up to today? And I'm like, oh my God, he knows me, and I'm liking it. So that's the weird thing. But Josh, let's get into viewers, who keep hearing about AI, but they aren't quite sure what it means in practical terms. And can you kind of explain just generally what artificial intelligence actually is, and give us some everyday examples of where people are already encountering it? We might not even know.
Right. So without getting into the really detailed, dry definitions, think of AI, it's generative AI. That's the key. AI is basically it really evolved from something called machine learning, where a computer can take huge amounts of data and analyze them and find trends and discover things that would take a person a lot of time to. So AI puts this together. Generative AI basically makes it easier to interact like it were a person and ask it questions as though it were a person, and it can come up with answers. And they sound like you're talking to a buddy, except that the AI tool is using statistical analysis with some
Well,
training to get
right.
it right.
And I've
Yeah,
heard before, like if, it takes a lot of input to eventually get good.
yeah,
But you have mentioned an article that you read in the Wall Street Journal about analyzing 47,000
right.
ChatGPT conversations. Here's what people are really using it for. What are they really using this for?
Well, there's two pieces. One is they're using it for everything, but the key is that they're using it for really personal stuff, asking medical questions, uh, family law, relationship issues. They're trying to get some companionship sometimes. But the key is that the reason that the Wall Street Journal was able to analyze these conversations is that folks used an ability to share their conversation, but they didn't realize that, and this was probably a bug, when they hit share, that opened those conversations up for Google to be able to search them and capture them. And I'm sure that wasn't the intent.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, and
Well,
OpenAI, which is a
where
company,
do you share this? Because I think our viewers should know, like, is there a button to hit that you don't share or what? I don't want
not
to
any
share my
longer.
conversations.
That feature's gone. Yeah, OpenAI, once that bug was discovered, because you could
Oh,
share it with someone else. Once that bug was
oh,
discovered, they scrapped it. As far as I know, it's totally gone.
oh,
Um,
good.
yeah,
That's good because again, you're hammering home the point that people are using AI is like our counselors, our
right.
confidants,
Yeah.
asking them for personal advice. And so, uh, are all these programs designed this way to kind of suck us in and make us addicted to them, or what's going on?
I think the companies want to make them easy to use and want us to feel comfortable using them. Um, and so I think it's a feature, not a bug. Whether it's a feature people want, that's another question.
Sure. Well, I read that Chat GPT 4, I think was scored in the top uh,
Right.
10% or something of the bar exam. I'm not sure exactly, but anyway, was able to pass the bar exam, which some people just aren't able to do. So if it's so good at answering these questions and it never even went to law school, why would you recommend people use it or don't use it for financial or tax advice or legal advice? What would you say to this?
I would say it's good at kind of getting an idea of the landscape, but it can't give you a conclusion. Um, if you say, "What's this rash? Should I be worried about it?" It could be one of a million things. And a doctor would know, you as a patient would know what medication you're on, what other issues you might have, what's your family history, and would know the questions. I'll give you an example with the legal field.
Yes.
I had a client, great client. I like them very much, and they said, I got this contract back, this contract draft back from a potential customer, and they made some edits, and I ran it through an AI program to see what it thought. And here's what it thought. See what you think. And I looked at what the AI did with it, and what it did was fine. It pointed out some issues which I would have found in about 30 seconds, but it missed major issues. Definitions were wrong. The use of
Oh,
terms were wrong. There was a law that was outdated and no longer active and accurate.
oh,
This
wow.
thing had fallen apart. And yet the AI didn't get anything that it said wrong. It just missed a huge amount. And
Yeah,
that's an issue.
that is an issue. And interestingly, I just had a client write to me today. He had said, "Hey, I have this non-disclosure agreement to review." And I'm thinking, why is an employee getting a non-disclosure agreement? This is typically, between a contractor and a company, or two companies considering sharing confidential information, or a candidate. So I pushed back on it and said, this is just not even appropriate for an employee to be signing, let alone one who's been there forever and is accessing confidential information all the time. So he took it back to the general counsel of the company, who said, I had no idea this was put out. Someone in human resources went on ChatGPT, created the document, and distributed it to all the senior executive team without even running it through legal. So, this is the kind of stuff that, it sounds great, but it may not be right.
In employment law, isn't there a case from Pennsylvania that said specifically you can't do that in the middle of an employment contract? And AI doesn't know this.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the general counsel was not the least bit happy about this, because, things shouldn't be going out that are legal without the legal department knowing about it. But I think this is something we all have to be aware of moving forward, is if somebody gives you something to sign, just don't carte blanche sign it thinking it's okay, because it could be AI generated and completely wrong. So, there is a place here for getting, input from somebody who knows what they're doing. But what about for businesses using AI? This is a good example of what businesses need to be aware of, right? But what else would you say, businesses should be aware of if, this is your line of work and you advise them?
So let's say that a business is following the right chain of command in general, and the right people are putting out the right things. There are contract terms that govern the relationship that need to be addressed. So if you're a business and you're trying to get services from someone else, is that other company, that vendor of yours, using AI? If they're using AI, are they putting your customers' data into that AI? And then what happens with that data? Who has access to it? Is it becoming part of ChatGPT and your customers haven't given their consent? Or are you allowed to use AI in providing services or anything like that?
Is that could be a blending of trade secrets too, where you're inadvertently giving up trade secrets,
right?
And that could, really have devastating effects on your business if a court finds, you gave it away when you.
There was a case I came across it today where the question was, did the business in the Third Circuit, which is where we are, the question was, did the holder of this trade secret make enough effort to keep it confidential? And if you don't have control over your employees and contractors, and they're putting your, the secret Coca-Cola recipe into ChatGPT or Claude, you may just lose your trade secret, may be gone.
Oh my God.
So that's one issue. And another is there's confidentiality, there's liability, it's called indemnification. If someone messed up and caused you to be sued, do they have to make you whole? It's a huge issue, and ChatGPT is not good at this point, and Claude and all that. It just misses.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, this is just great. When you mentioned Claude, I think Claude remembers when I go back. I'll say, hi, Robin, what are you up to today? I'm like, oh my God. I have only used this thing a few times because I wanted to prepare for the show and, see how it goes and stuff. And I think, it's just surprising to me. And I wonder, how long is he going to remember this stuff about me? Is it forever or what?
I can answer that actually.
Oh, good.
So it depends on your privacy settings. I'll give you the example of Claude and ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Microsoft's Copilot. They have similar settings. But if you're using the free version and you don't change the setting to say, don't train on my data, and they may say, improve the experience for everybody else, or train it and make it better. They'll call it something like that. If you leave that on, whatever you put in is being used to train the model in general, and everybody else could have access to it. So the first thing you should do is change that setting so that your private information has a chance of staying private. That's the first thing. But there are other different ways of doing it, different levels of detail. But on the other hand, if you want Claude to know who you are and what you're about, so you don't have to keep telling it each time, and it gives you better answers, you can say, remember these things. This is important to me.
Well, Josh, this brings up a good point when you talk about, privacy laws and how everybody's struggling to keep pace with the AI data requirements. This whole concept of cookies, the ease of use versus the loss of privacy. Can you kind of help us reconcile this whole cookies thing? I see it all the time, and I'm like, I don't think I want these things. Help us understand a little bit about this.
So a cookie is a little tracker that's put on your computer to let the website know, okay, this person already logged in, or this person looked at this thing or that thing, or this person has, I don't know, a pair of shoes in their shopping cart, or they deleted the pair of shoes in their shopping cart. But the problem is that there aren't a ton of controls, at least in the US, on how that's used. So the way that privacy laws started and have been is transaction based. I order something, and then that vendor, that supplier, has my information to ship me that thing. Well, with AI, it's all about a huge amount of data. It's pretty much the entire internet at this point, and
Oh, wow.
getting all that out, if it's once it's in, is a tough thing, and we're still figuring out how that's going to happen. Privacy laws are still being written and changed. I came across something, I don't know, yesterday, neurodata, and basically Colorado and California and some other states are following them, have passed laws about protecting information about your brain and thoughts and who
Oh
you
my
are.
gosh.
I mean, that's the next thing. So this is
What is
not
that
some,
again? What's that term? Neurodata?
it's neurodata. Um,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
wow.
it's it's here now. It sounds like science fiction. It really
It
does, but
does.
it's here
This
now.
really sounds like science fiction,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
how do you get something out of an AI model
Mhm.
once you've shared your thoughts or idea? I don't
Sure.
even know how you could once if you haven't changed the privacy setting before you use the
Yeah.
tool. It would seem
But,
that's just going to
but
follow you around.
and in the US, it's opt out, not opt in generally for at least sensitive data.
Ah,
And so when you like Windows, I can use my face to log into Windows with
yeah,
this webcam.
right.
Well, there's a computer somewhere that has a scan of my face, and my face isn't really changing. It may get more wrinkled or gray or something, but it's not really changing. So what happens if that is hacked and the bad guys have it?
Oh my
So all of
gosh.
this stuff is really hasn't been litigated yet, but it's an issue. So, but getting back to AI itself, there's also promise to AI, and so I don't want to seem like it's all a downer, but it's a cost benefit. My son, at this point, privacy. It's like, well, that's a thing for your generation to worry about.
Yeah, that's an outdated concept,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. I can see that. Well, let's talk about some of the positive things, because AI can make your life much easier. It can, expedite giving you a draft of something that then you have to use your own brain and you have to verify and check, et cetera. But these AI systems can also generate creative works, inventions, et cetera. But who owns these things? Like when they generate them? Is there any law on that yet?
So there is starting to be. The Copyright Office, the U.S. Copyright Office, came out with a report earlier this year that basically said uh, for something to be protected by copyright, it has to be created by a person. You can use AI as a tool, but the creative decisions have to be by a person. And so that's pretty much where the law is right now. When it comes to patents, and I'm not a patent attorney, but I can tell you that the patent office has held that there was this professor, Stephen Thaler, who submitted a patent application where he said, this computer system is the inventor. And that the courts, the highest courts, said, no, No, it's not. A person needs to be the inventor. So that's basically where it is right now. That being said, there are times when you don't really care about copyright as much as you care about speed. You want to have access to this thing. You want to create code that's faster than everybody else to the market. There's this thing called Cursor, which will generate code, and it helps companies get really fast at turnaround. And maybe the code isn't the thing that they need as much as the business opportunity.
Boy, this is fascinating. So let's just say that AI creates something, or maybe when I call, sometimes I'm making a phone call to a business or a healthcare institution, a financial
Mhm.
institution. I don't think I'm talking to a person. I think I'm talking to an AI generated bot.
Right.
And you probably am. So what if that bot gives me the wrong information or somehow misdirects me, and there's some legal liability? If the AI can't be the creator of something, can it be
Yeah.
liable for something, or who's liable? The people who generated Claude, or Microsoft, or ChatGPT, or me? Who's liable?
So in general, I'll give you an example. I forget if it was this year or last. There was an AI customer service agent, and it gave someone a terrific deal on, I think it was airplane tickets, flight
Ah,
tickets. And the company tried to claw that back, and the court said, "Well, no, this was your AI. You're
good.
bound by it." It was something along those lines as far as the fact pattern. But the company had to eat the cost, unfortunately, because its product had messed up. And so that's generally where that is. But it's going to be an interesting line when there's shared responsibility. If I have a hammer, the company that made the hammer isn't responsible if I hit my finger,
Right.
which has happened. Uh, but when it comes to self-driving, um, Tesla is generally going to be responsible for the problems of its self-driving platform, even though the courts haven't really gotten to the outcomes of that. But so far, that's kind of how it is. And again, Tesla, to use that example, has said, "Look, you have to keep your eyes on the road."
Yeah.
So it wants to give itself an out, which is fair. If I'm driving fast, I should probably keep my eyes on the road and not, have a margarita in the back seat.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things work out. It's going to really be fact dependent. Um,
Yeah, I'm really fascinated to know that. And you've mentioned before that the privacy laws are struggling to keep pace with AI's data requirements. And there are going to be a lot of creative legal solutions. I think there's the great unknown out here. And I know this wasn't something that we had really talked about before, but I took this class on cryptocurrency and NFTs, and oh my gosh, within the first 5 minutes, my eyes were crossed, and I was like, blockchain. And because I'm thinking, all right, we all have a responsibility to stay current with technology. We can't just tune it out and say,
right.
I don't want to know about this, because whether we want to know about it or not, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I'm seeing transactions that are crossing borders instantly. Are you ever going to get your money back?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
it just seems like jurisdictional nightmares for enforcement. And are there any international frameworks yet to address what's happening in the finance world of where our money's going with blockchain and crypto and all that?
Not as far as I know, nothing that's really uh, acknowledged as
Yeah.
the standard. And I'll give you an example of how this becomes an issue. You hear in the news every so often about fraud when it comes to. I got a call from the CFO of my company, and he said to
Yeah.
wire $1 million to Hong Kong, and so I
Yeah.
did because it was obviously the CEO. Well, now people realize you got to check in. So now I was on a video conference with 5 members of the executive team. But the problem is those other 4 members, or the 5 members of the executive team, weren't real. They were AI bots. And
Oh
that's where the
God.
technology is right now. So right now, if the other jurisdiction is going to help you, that's great. But sometimes it just isn't. And it's a really sticky situation right now that just involves, hopefully, countries working together when it's in their interest.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be another subject for a different day, a different topic. But I just had to bring it up because, you've made some great points here about the amazing potential of AI, which it really does, and how it's changing our world, including the laws. And, you've made some points about the pros and cons and how it's getting better and everything. But do you have any, like, maybe last 30 seconds of advice before we have to close the show here?
Sure. Right now, is when it comes to the law, AI is really kind of at the level of an intern, maybe. Maybe if you're very lucky, a first-year associate. But you wouldn't take something from a new attorney and just turn it into the court. You would look at it and make sure that the citations are right. I literally, half an hour, if that, before this show, I was looking at a case that just came down in the last 2 weeks from Pennsylvania Superior Court talking about this. And so that's the first thing. Use AI, take advantage of it, but check it. Which is
Use it
what I do.
responsibly, right?
Use it
Thoughtfully and
responsibly.
responsibly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And that's the key. It's really, really good, but it's not perfect. It hallucinates and you won't know when. So
Yeah.
just double check. If it
Oh
says
my God.
to, put soap on your pizza or whatever it is, maybe you want to not do that, or double check at least. So
No.
that's the thing. Use a professional for things that maybe AI can give you an idea, but use a professional.
For matters that matter.
Yeah. I mean,
Josh, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for
much.
sharing your expertise and really helping us to understand what's at stake. I mean, there's a lot at stake here. And to our viewers, the conversation doesn't end here. Okay, stay informed, ask questions, and ensure that AI works for everyone in your workplace and for you. I'm Robin Bond, and thanks for watching Legal Talk, and we will see you next time. Next week's show will be Eric Parnell of Great Valley Advisors, and my guest next time will be Ken Milner, and we're going to be looking at some franchise law issues. So thank you again for joining Legal Talk with Robin Bond.